Coming up on Vetline.
I'm just saying, screw you, I quit. No 2-week notice. You know, as long as they turn in all the company property, there's nothing else I can do.
As an employee, should I be seeking out my HR managers and asking them to spell those things out for me or to provide those things?
If you have an informational interview and they tell you one thing and you're like, man, that's a good idea, it was worth it.
Do you find that military folks transition into a civilian workplace and have a hard time? Like, civilian workplace, you just don't talk like you do in the military.
Those things that you bring into the workplace as a veteran are immeasurable. I know I value them.
Do you feel like you have less tools in your toolbox as a civilian HR manager then, or is it just different?
I think it's not less, it's just different. And some of that's market dependent, some of that is job dependent. If you're in one of those jobs to where it's in high demand, you know, you're a big fish in a little pond, there's some leverage with that, right? But by and large, I go back to the word choice. The choice was we decided to hire you based upon what we believe you will bring to the organization. You decided to say, yes, I'll be a part of it. But they can also always have a choice with no legal ramifications of just saying, screw you, I quit. No 2-week notice. You know, as long as they turn in all the company property, there's nothing else I can do, right? Now, unless there's an NDA or, you know, a non-compete or those kind of things. But beyond those extenuating circumstances, that factor of choice means that employers, good ones, have to create an environment where they're an employee of choice. People
right, because an NDA or a non-compete isn't going to keep somebody in their office after they quit.
That's right.
It's just going to mitigate damage.
Right.
But it's not going to replace the need to have a butt in that seat.
That's right. And you're going to have to go find another one. And, you know, the cost of that is, I won't say it's immeasurable because there is a cost. There's formulas that you can utilize, you know, the opportunity cost, lost productivity, the recruitment fees, the onboarding, you know, all the functionals that have to play a role in getting this person up to speed. You know, it can equal a year's worth of salary or more, depending on the role. And that just goes straight to your bottom line. And it is painful. It's painful. And I think as long as you have that environment at work to where you're stretching people, you're challenging people, you're rewarding people and recognizing people, their voices are heard, they're growing, the salaries are competitive within the market and within the function that they're performing within the market, you know, that you've got a basically overall welcoming workplace. And I won't use that word. Our workplace is like family because I think that's crazy. But you know, overall, people on Sunday night don't dread going in on Monday morning. You know, that creates your vision of a place where people want to be. And that creates that talent pipeline. Now, when they tell me to take a long walk off a short bridge, which it's happened, okay, man, you can go home and don't come back. And then that's it, right?
What other advice would you give to, you know, like, whether it's E4 Mafia or I've been in for 30 years and I'm having my first post-service civilian job. So I'm missing out on the structure. I'm maybe more on my own when it comes to training and development. I won't necessarily have a clear development path. As an employee, should I be seeking out my HR managers and asking them to spell those things out for me or to provide those things? Or do I need to get scrappy about finding those answers or just training myself, doing it on my own?
I think the best thing you can do before you take any role in any industry, in any function, is get to know people that are successful in those positions that you seek and ask how they got there. Now, everybody's journey is different. It's never linear. It's sometimes linear, but for most people, it's a lot of, you know, stops along the way. But getting to know those people and understand how they got from here to here, how they did it, is super important. Once you get into a workplace, look at the people who are successful. Emulate what they do if it's good. If it's bad, don't do what they do. I mean, it's pretty obvious. It sounds obvious, but you would be surprised at the amount of employees. Well, he got to this, and he's ate up. He's tore up. He's broke, but he got there. So I'm going to be the same way. You don't know the story behind that. You know, you just don't. So emulate who's doing it well, do those informational interviews, follow tips and guidance, and apply what works. It doesn't have to be all of it. If you have an informational interview and they tell you one thing and you're like, man, that's a good idea, it was worth it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It was worth it.
One tidbit.
One little thing.
What are some red flags? I'm about to start working for a new company. I've done some interviews, but I don't really necessarily know what civilian workplace red flags are. From your HR viewpoint, what are some civilian workplace red flags that are like, you need to be out of there or get answers?
Well, lack of transparency on salary, first of all, from the first touch point till you clock in. If that hasn't been clear and up front, that's an obvious red flag. Benefits and things that are going to help you live life when life happens. If that hasn't been spoken to very, very well before you start making widgets, that's a red flag. Lack of responsiveness and lack of feedback when you bring questions. For example, we have a ticketing system. If one of our employees sends us a trouble ticket, hey, I'm having trouble finding my pay stub on Workday, we have X amount of time to action that.
Right.
And get them. If you're not getting responses and feedback, even if it's the feedback you don't want, have to always emphasize that. That's a red flag.
Okay.
Red flag is lack of clear expectations in the workplace. What does right look like in this building? How do we do things right? And let me show you. If you don't see that right away, that's a red flag, because that's going to probably somewhere down the line lead to some sort of chaos in your work life. If there's not feedback on your performance in the workplace, even if you're a new employee, 30, 60, 90 days. Hey, Gary, you've been here for 30 days. Here's what you're really doing well. Here's some opportunities for you to get better. You need to hear that, because your final performance measurement shouldn't be a shock.
Right. Or you shouldn't be getting negative feedback, and it shouldn't be a surprise that you're on the ropes as an employee. Is that pretty standard? You know, your first 30, 60, 90, you should have formal feedback.
That's very common. It's very common. Some places do it better than others.
Are you going to find that more in like a corporate environment and less in like a mom and pop sort of thing?
Yeah, because mom and pops organizations and smaller organizations, and this is such a buzzword, and don't slap me for saying it, but they don't have the bandwidth to do things very well. They're not layered and they're not siloed. Like my team doesn't really care how they're performing too much at work in the finance department, right? We care about, how is the onboarding experience? How's your manager treating you? You know, are you getting what you think you need to succeed here? If so, what is it? If not, what is it? And we can bring all this feedback back to the manager and say, hey, here's where you do really good. Here's an opportunity to close some gaps. What you do with it is up to you. But I'm giving you the tools. I'm giving you the eggs. You cook them like you want.
Right.
But we're doing this to make this employee happy, make them feel, again, heard, welcomed, and valued. And if they are, and they're paid fairly, they're going to stick around.
Taking a quick 20-second break in the action to talk to you about our incredible sponsors, Tayback Law. The best in the business, the most reliable when it comes to VA disability claims and appeals. They've personally helped me. I am a client, and I highly recommend that if you need some support with your VA disability claims, that you check them out. A brand new website at taybackattorneys.com. Back to it. Let's say I am either an HR manager or HR adjacent in the military. I'm a first sergeant, super duty sergeant, whatever. And I think that potentially human resources management is something that I want to do in the civilian workforce. If you could finish the sentence, you should go for it if blank. Why should somebody go for it? If they're a military HR person, why should they go for being a civilian HR person? What would make that a good fit for them? Because it's not automatic, right?
I do quite a few out, transitioning veterans are like, I'm thinking about HR. I'm like, why? Why HR? Well, I just thought I'd fit good there. What about HR do you like? Well, I don't really know a lot about it. But let me tell you what should draw you to HR. I like setting up systems for employees at work that make their employee experience better. I like working with people and dealing with conflict. I like, coaching, training, and mentoring leaders to make the employee experience better for the team and therefore the productivity of their teams better. Because again, that keeps the lights on. Those are the kind of things you want to lead, but lead from a different perspective. Lead from a coaching and mentoring and advising perspective versus, the knife hand.
Yeah.
As the authoritative person in the process. I'm not. And I tell people this all the time. Well, you're in HR. You fire people. I don't fire anybody unless they're an HR person. I help managers and guide managers along, sometimes with my legal partners, through a termination process. But I don't say, Adam, you're terminated. As of today, this is your last day working here. You're terminated, effective immediately. I'll be senile on my deathbed and can say that. But typically, I don't do that here. My managers do that. My directors do that. My senior directors and VPs do that. I give them the tools to do it empathetically, legally, moral, and just the proper way to send somebody away from the organization, good or bad. Whether they say I quit or whether we say you're fired. Because we always talk about bringing people on. But you know as well as I do, the best units you were a part of in the Air Force were the ones that welcomed people the right way and sent them away the right way. It seems to be when organizations do that, the stuff in between, welcoming them and sending them away, sort of kind of takes care of itself.
Right.
So
that's a good point.
You have to have processes in place. You have to do your training. You have to hit your numbers. You have to do all your KPIs. But those expectations are set up front. And when they leave on good terms, hey, you did a good job. We're going to miss you.
Yeah.
And, it's not just a plaque. There's something about when you lose somebody good, that person feels good about themselves. And we've all heard of boomerangs. You send them away right, they come back.
Often come back.
Because the grass isn't always greener.
You mentioned the legality and the compliance part of things. I personally found, coming from doing public affairs and doing marketing stuff in the Air Force during my first enlistment, and needing to absolutely ensure, because we're updating a government website and we have to comply with federal guidelines for accessibility, for example, for writing guidelines, disclosure guidelines. Like, there's all those things that your copy has to be on point in these certain ways. You can't say certain things in certain, that really set me up for success in doing marketing in the civilian world. I would often ask questions like, why don't we have this accessibility feature on our website? It's really important that we comply with blah, blah, blah. And everybody's like, where is this coming from?
Right.
It really, I feel like that level of detail, at least from a policy and compliance standpoint, really set me up for success. Do you find that that's similar in the HR world?
Absolutely. To be honest, I like some of the freedom of maneuver out in the civilian world because there is. But when it comes to compliance topics, what you pay people for what their pay category is, how you treat people at work, following all the laws that are out there, properly responding to an EEOC complaint, how you deal with an audit from OSHA, how do you deal with an audit from DCAA? And every industry has its nuances there, but there's still guidelines that you must follow. And coming out of the military, it's like, okay, well, I did this for 4 years, E4 Mafia, or I did this for 25 years, retired major or lieutenant colonel, we've done this. So it doesn't phase us. So it won't phase you out here either. It just looks a little bit different. But once you see it, you'll start drawing parallels almost immediately to your military experience. Oh, I seen this. It looked a little bit different. We called it a little bit different. We called it an inspection, but really it's an audit, right? And you'll start drawing those parallels and they become less cumbersome. They become less stress inducing and they set you up for success because you know what right looks like when nobody's looking. And if you proceed in that, with that mindset, when somebody is looking, you don't have to worry about it.
So I have one last burning question. So the military has no nonsense, zero tolerance when it comes to risque or dark humor or things that might be suggestive or those sort of things on paper. But on the ground, there is a certain way, not saying it's right, but there's a certain way that especially enlisted folks, engage with one another, that it's a little more collegiate, maybe a little more fraternal, a little more colorful.
Yeah.
Do you find that military folks transition into a civilian workplace and have a hard time? Like, civilian workplace, you just don't talk like you do in the military.
No.
Do you find people struggle with that, or do they just kind of get it that that was a unique situation?
I've seen instances across different industries and across different levels of industries. So where I'm at now, I'm in a very nice building for AV. I'm in a very much a corporate environment. So, you always have to think right audience, right place, right time. And even then, sometimes it can go south. Mm-hmm. So if you maintain a professional polish, now I'm seen as the guy who likes to cut up. I'm seen as a funny guy. I like to make fun of myself, but I very, very seldom make fun of somebody else, because we could be yucking it up one minute and then the next minute they're offended. Most of that stuff is very much addressed in employee handbooks. Most of that stuff is very much addressed in policies. And even then, if you're in a very much a blue collar work environment, these guys and gals are just busting knuckles. They're out, in a foundry sweating in 130-degree temperatures. It's a little more earthy. I always call it earthy.
Earthy. I like that.
And that's why I sort of gravitated initially out of the Army into manufacturing. I'm like, you know what? These blue collar folks kind of get it. I understand their mindset.
You can relate to them a little better.
Yeah, give me the tool and let me go beat on something until it's right and we can get it to the customer. I'm like, right. I get that. It also creates a subset of other problems, right? Mm-hmm. So it was an adjustment coming into a corporate environment. It's an adjustment in working on your polish and your delivery. But, those are some of the costs of going from here to here if you want to get there. But most places have things in place to mitigate those things. No, you can't use the F-bomb at your manager, dude. That's not okay. Yeah. We spell it out right here. We talked about it before you got in this environment. And I always tell employees, as the HR manager, my door, and this is, people make fun of me, except when my door is closed, my door is always open to you. If my door is closed, there's a reason why it's closed. Don't come in. But if my door is open and you need to vent, come in my office, shut the door, and I don't care what you call me. Because I guarantee my best friends in the Army called me things 3 times as bad, and we laughed about it. Yeah. But after you get done venting, I'm going to ask, what's the problem? So we can do some root cause analysis and find out if there's a solution. That's super important. You have to be approachable. And I think as leaders, as we grew as leaders in the military, we learned how to really walk that fine line between being tough but fair, but also being the person that one of your airmen, one of your Marines, one of your sailors, one of your soldiers, one of your coasties could approach you with a problem, and you could approach it from a different standpoint as a leader. And those things that you bring into the workplace as a veteran are in measure. I know I value them. We have about a 30% veteran workforce here, and you can tell.
Great insights, Gary. How can people get in touch with you? I'd suggest everybody follow you on LinkedIn, because you are, like I said earlier, a font of knowledge and insightful posts. Should people connect with you there?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I don't care if you have one connection or you're one of the people with 100,000 connections. And a lot of what I share is things that I've screwed up. So I try to approach it from a standpoint of humor. I try to approach it from a standpoint of lessons learned, and don't do this because I didn't turn out so well.
Yeah, if you're considering HR, or if you're not sure what to expect from your HR managers as you transition from military to civilian work, Gary's your guy.
Thanks for having me, Adam.